Something better's come to lead you on. What are you waiting for to grind it down? Oh yes, you paid for common ground.
My son had committed suicide in February of 2008, and my family just fell apart.
On March 11th, 2010, Linda DeMeo could no longer look her 23-year-old daughter Diana in her eyes and say, "I love you."
I was very sad. I was hurt. I felt like there was no one there.
Crisis is no longer something that happens to other people. 9/11 made terrorism personal, with the aftershock of that catastrophic event still evident a decade later for anyone traveling by air. For others, the story wasn't the government bailout of the auto companies, but the more personal crisis of job loss, eviction, and bill collectors. A mental health crisis, the bad news phone call, a natural disaster, divorce. Life's stressors create a knot in your stomach to indicate a crisis is underway. How do you cope with the intense feelings? To whom can you turn for help?
That's new.
I've heard that before. So, but she doesn't talk about it every time.
Yeah. Hello, this is Common Ground.
For every person that calls Common Ground in a crisis, our goal, they have a goal, and our goal is to empower them to reach that goal. Our goal is to move them from the crisis they're in to hope.
And we see people who are in crisis. They don't know where else to turn.
At Common Ground, we listen, we care. We help 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Some of the ways we do this is through groups such as Survivors of Suicide, Survivors of Homicide Victims, Growth and Healing, Teen Girl Empowerment, in-home and office-based counseling programs, the Legal Clinic, and through community education like the Say Yes Theater Group.
It's a different type of emotion when you have someone that's really honestly helping you from their heart, and they mean it every minute of it. It's very genuine.
Meet Phyllis. This 23-year-old works as a youth specialist at both the Step Forward and Graduated Apartment programs. And eventually, she hopes to attend the Detroit Police Academy to become a narcotics officer.
I was 17 years old. I was a senior in high school. Me and my mother, we were arguing a lot. It started getting physical. She was a single parent of 3, so she was stressed out. Bills were piling up. There were plenty of things that I wanted to do my senior year. When it came time for me to graduate, I didn't know if I was going to go to college. My mother didn't know. She had her own issues. She decided that it was just too much, so she asked me to leave. I went to stay with a friend for about a week. I stayed with my friend. My mother told my friend that her grandmother needed to take me to Common Ground. I guess she found Common Ground. She found that it was a place where troubled youth go. The staff was sort of like they were like a family to me.
My son had committed suicide in February of 2008, and my family just fell apart. My 3-year-old grandson had questions about why his dad wasn't around, and I didn't know how to answer them. And my counselor, my personal counselor that had seen me through my son's teenage years, suggested that I find a group called Survivors of Suicide. When I found the group, I called and I spoke with Shawn Force, who was the leader of the group at that time. And at the meeting, she asked me to share the story of that day, of Nate's suicide and his death and the impact on our family. And when I finished, she shared the story of her sister's suicide. Her being a survivor of something that devastating gave me hope.
In the SOS group, you can express what your emotions are. Those feelings of guilt, the feelings of hopelessness, the feeling that you've done something wrong, there's something that you should have done, you should have known, and the whole question of where do I go from here? Will I be like this forever? Will this pain last forever? And only in this SOS group was I able to find answers to those questions.
Meet Diana DeMeo. Vivacious and petite, with long dark hair, Diana was a 2009 graduate of the University of Miami. Her mother Linda described Diana as someone who loved taking in strays, as evidenced by the adoption of her dog Da Vinci, who had been returned to the shelter 5 times before Diana decided to take on the challenge of loving and caring for him. Unfortunately, when Diana befriended Peter Dabish, she took in one too many strays, and the consequences of that decision cost Diana her life.
Linda did not know where to turn when she found out that her daughter was murdered and she had to go to the court proceedings. Our victim assistance program will go accompany a victim to court to help them through the court process, not only the legal issues involved, but also the emotional support that we can give these individuals, because what they're going through is so intense. And to have other family members around them going through the same thing, you feel isolated, I'm told, because you don't want to say something that may affect another family member. So us going there, we're there to allow them to talk to us, to be comfortable talking to us. And so many times we hear the survivors say, I'm being re-victimized by the court proceedings, because it can be drawn out. You think that, you watch on television and it's finished in an hour, this whole big court proceedings. This can take months, years even, from the day the actual homicide was committed to the sentencing and the victim impact statement.
I held my head to my only daughter's heart to hear and feel her last breaths. I joyously felt her first breath when I carried her in my womb 23 years earlier, and I needed to complete that part of the life cycle.
Linda is very open. She wants people to know. She wants them to know that Common Ground has a victim assistance program and does offer services, because she's very empathetic to others.
I'm now comfortable answering questions about my grandson's, when my grandson questions his dad's death.
I wanted to give back. I really wanted to give back, and I wanted to make a difference in someone else's life, like Common Ground made a difference in my life.
To interact with others in the world, to be comfortable with who I am again, and to again have hope.
Common Ground has journeyed from crisis to hope with hundreds of thousands of people just like you and me over the past 40 years. Our work is measured in lives saved, comfort given, and resources provided. These are just some of the stories of people we've helped. Thanks for being a partner we can count on as we begin the next 40 years of helping your friends, neighbors, or perhaps you or your family move from crisis to hope.
Something better's come to me.